The Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 meeting of the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Neely. Here. Commissioner Marl.
Here.
Commissioner McGriff.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Arenello.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Chair Mike Mitchell.
Here. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, do we have any public comments? I don't have any cards.
We do not.
We do not? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, which is a public hearing. Resolution number UR 25-01, adopting the urban renewal budget. Staff report.
So we will do the staff report first. I just want to note that when we make the motion to approve this, last meeting was supposed to also be a public hearing. It was noticed as one. We just forgot to open it before comments and then close it afterwards. So when we make the motion to approve the budget, we do need to state that we are adding in the comments that were made at the May 7th meeting as part of the record.
Okay.
So.
Are you going to, do you want to open it?
We'll do the
now?
Staff report
Okay.
first and then
Okay.
comment.
Okay. Yeah, let me just hang on a second. All right. Good evening, Chair Mitchell and Commissioners. Tonight we have before you a long-awaited adoption of resolution number UR 2507, adopting the urban renewal budget, making appropriations, and declaring the tax increment for 2025-27. As a matter of background, on April 10th, the Urban Renewal Budget Committee reviewed the proposed budget, and at that meeting, they approved a total budget of $19.6 million and requested the maximum amount of revenue that could be raised under the Division of Taxes. On May 7th, when we last convened, the Urban Renewal Commission reviewed the approved budget for 25-27. They did not adopt the budget. You did not adopt the budget nor declare a tax increment at that meeting. However, we did hear your motion to direct staff to prepare a resolution adopting the urban renewal budget, make appropriations, and declaring the tax increment for 2025-27 with 25% for both years being collected. And you asked for that to be brought back to this meeting on May 21st. So the resolution presented to the Urban Renewal Commission this evening reflects that motion. And in addition, the urban renewal biennial budget is presented in this packet, reflecting columns with the proposed budget, the approved budget, and the final column to the right is what we called the urban renewal revised biennium, reflecting numbers that you've asked us to reflect in resolution number 2501. Once this budget is adopted, that will officially become the adopted budget column, and it will reflect all 3 steps of the process. So in accordance with Oregon Revised Statutes 457, 455, Section 3, I did contact each taxing district with a phone call, an email, and a letter to consult and confer before Commission acted on limiting the collections under the 2 years for this next biennium. Did make contact with every taxing district. Nobody had any issues with it, considering that they're going to get more money. On May 7th, I was just in the staff report, it mentions the procedural step that was overlooked, the steps that we'll take to avoid that in the future. The total budget for the resolution before you is $13,226,800, and it contains funding for future projects under the direction of Urban Renewal Commission, and payment for costs to administer the agency, rental expenses, and $100,000 operating contingency. Following adoption, we will take care of the necessary steps to file with the Department of Revenue, the Clackamas County Clerk, and the Clackamas County Assessor. So our recommendation as staff is to, as Evan said, is to adopt this resolution 2501 and also incorporate the public comments related to this budget and tax increment at the May 7th, 2025 meeting into the record. And that's my staff report.
Okay, any questions for staff? All right. Yes, Member Griffin.
Just for the record, our esteemed finance director did not identify himself before he started his report. So for the record, this is Matt Zook, who's our finance director.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we need to open a public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I will open the public hearing. Are there any public comments?
There are none.
There are not. Okay, but items from our, public comment from our previous meeting will be a part of the record of the public comment.
Correct.
Okay,
We'll incorporate that with the motion.
all right. Okay, seeing no comments, we'll close the public hearing. And comments and deliberation from the commissioners? Nope. Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no comments to be made, is there a motion? And you have a...
Yes,
Mayor
I
Griffin?
wanted
Yes.
to make the motion.
Okay,
I'd like to move approval of resolution UR 25-01, adopting the urban renewal budget, making appropriations and declaring tax increment for the 2025-27 biennium, and adding in the public testimony from the previous meeting as part of the record.
Second.
okay. Moved and seconded, go ahead with the call roll, please.
Commissioner Neely?
No.
Commissioner Marl?
Aye.
Commissioner McGriff?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Arnello?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Chair Mike Mitchell?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Did we?
Did you guys close the hearing?
I
Yeah.
did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. And Mr. Zook, thank you and your team again for your work on the budget.
I second that.
And we will move on to the next item, which is a review of properties owned by the Urban Renewal Agency. Mr. Conkle or Mr. Graham, who's, that's your pleasure.
Yes.
Good evening, Urban Renewal Commissioners. I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager for Oregon City. On May 7th, 2025, the Urban Renewal Commission directed staff to obtain property profiles for the 20 properties owned by the Urban Renewal Agency, with an interest particularly in discussing the 2 residential properties owned by the Urban Renewal Commission or Agency. The 2 residential properties include 214 South Tumwater Drive and 313 South 2nd Street. And if you would bring up those properties. Yes. Yes. This property is 214 South Tumwater Drive, and it was built in 1935. It's a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath dwelling. The interior square footage is 1,450 square feet. The lot size is 3,465 square feet, or 0.08 acres. Zoning is institutional, not in a flood zone. The property condition is good, and it is currently leased. And that's another picture of it there. The next property is 313 South 2nd Street. And you'll pull that up, of course.
Okay, let's go live.
There you go. This is 313 South 2nd Street. Now, this property was built in 1925. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath structure. The interior square footage is 1,450 square feet. The lot size is 3,465 square feet, or 0.08 acres. Zoning is institutional. It is not in a flood zone. The property condition is good. It's currently leased. A survey of the property indicated that the fence on the rear property line is in the wrong location and will need to be addressed with the adjoining property owner. So as you've seen those pictures, now the remaining 18 properties, well, I should say that if there is a decision to sell the properties, it is legally required that at least a written 90-day advance notice would need to be sent to the current occupants of the property. The remaining 18 properties include 8 properties that are associated with the Cove, 2 properties located between the Metro Transfer Station and I-205. This area was evacuated as a flood retention stormwater facility in conjunction with the Jug Handle project. The area has no redevelopment potential. In 1795 Washington Street, referred to as the Stimson property, this property has redevelopment potential. 1757 Washington Street, referred to as the Amtrak station, this property is developed. 1810 Washington Street, it's a vacant parcel across from Stimson property. 922 Main Street, referred to as 10th and Main, this property has redevelopment potential. And 625 Center Street is composed of 4 tax lots and referred to as City Hall. This property is developed. That's the staff report.
Okay. What I'd like to do, I think, let's take questions on anything Mr. Graham has commented on in the staff report, and then we'll jump back, start talking about the 2 houses and work our way down the list. So, Member Griffin.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell. So, Mr. Graham, what is the lot size of the 2 residential parcels? I apologize, I did not have a chance to look it up.
Oh, sure. The residential, for 214 South Tumwater, it's 1,450 square feet, the interior of the building.
Do you want lot size or?
Lot size.
Oh, the lot size is 3,465 square feet.
Say it again.
Say again?
3,000.
465 square feet.
Okay, and that's for 214?
Correct.
And what is the other one?
It's 3,465 square feet.
So these are parcels that were created prior to the time we changed the zoning because they're very small. Okay. So they're both just a little over 3,500 square feet.
Yes.
Here, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is residential use, is that permitted in the institutional zone?
So that was one thing was we should have included. We would need to probably move forward with a comp plan amendment and zone change for those 2 properties to get them consistent with the zoning that's around there. These have been owned by the agency for quite a long time, and I think this is probably going back to either 2004 or 2008 when we consolidated a lot of our zones. We used to have a significant number of residential and commercial and industrial zones, and we kind of consolidated it. And through that process, we were also directed to identify publicly owned properties, specifically by the city, as institutional. So that's why these were changed to institutional. And like I said, it was probably in either 2004 or 2008 when we did some significant comprehensive plan updates and map amendments as part of adopting a new comprehensive plan, where these were changed to institutional, essentially publicly owned.
And that would have to be changed?
I think we probably should, in order, to make it.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have any idea when the current leases expire with the current tenants on those 2?
Actually, I thought I had that. Because they're fairly started within the last 3 years, but I don't have that with me. I can get that for you if you need.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we start then, we'll talk, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes, Commissioner Neely.
I was on the commission when these were brought in. I think they were brought in from the standpoint of looking at tourism opportunities on the falls. In fact, the zip lines were brought in as a possibility going across the falls. I just wonder what the likelihood that these will ever come into being, and so I think at some point or another we should take a look at these 2 pieces of property and how we want to deal with them. I think it's the kind of thing that I think would be very expensive to do, There are a lot of safety concerns with it and so forth. If that were the original intention, which I believe it was, we should reconsider.
Okay. So, Commissioners, thoughts on those two properties? Do we want to move forward with selling them? One idea, the reason I ask about the leases is it might be I assume they'd be on a one-year lease.
Oh, yeah, and their expiration, of course, are different dates.
Yes, but
you can.
they wouldn't be longer than a year
Yeah, sure.
leases, right?
Sure, yes.
Okay,
Let us pull the leases and see exactly what they are.
okay.
Let me retract.
The thought might be if it's not too long a time, kind of the polite thing to do might be to just tell them we're not going to renew the lease at the end rather than do the 90-day thing.
Well, and just the time it would take us also to do a comp plan amendment, a zone change, that's going to take a little bit, just procedurally to get through that process.
I recall reading the leases, and they're on a month-to-month basis.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner McGriff, you had made a comment previously about if there was any way that when we did sell these, that they could be ownership opportunities and not purchased by an investor and rental properties. Is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think that we have long, as a city and commission, talked about how important it is to get more rather than having market rate apartments and things all the time.
Is our mic on?
What?
Is your mic
It's
on?
Yeah, it's on.
Should keep it on good.
And I think that we have an opportunity to possibly market them for first-term home buyers, which I think would go a long way to helping bring some wealth creation to folks who might not be able to, afford them. And I think that's something that we should definitely consider, but, I would support us disposing of them subject to the plan amendment and zone change that would need to happen. My colleague on the other end.
Okay. Oh, Commissioner, I don't know.
And you're in that business, so maybe.
Yeah, just looking at the photos, I might be concerned about the age of the roof and whatever maintenance we might need to put into the homes to make them sellable. From their photos, they looked a little aged. But again, we don't have the maintenance record, so I'd be interested in kind of seeing what the inspector said about appraisal.
We probably don't know when the last time I know they haven't been re-roofed since we have owned them, I would suspect.
Not that I recall.
Well, Commissioners, do we have agreement that we want to move forward in some fashion with selling these two homes?
Yes.
Yes.
Head nods all around. Do you need a motion to that effect, or you want to just?
I think that's fine. So I guess, it sounds like we should start preparing for sale of the properties. We don't know exactly if it's going to be a first-time home buyer or what those options might be. But then also starting the process of a comp plan amendment and zone change to get that into a residential zoning consistent with the adjoining properties.
Can I make that motion?
Do you need a motion, or are you okay with it?
If the commission's comfortable with what I just described, I'm fine.
Yeah, my motion is that I moved that we proceed with disposition of the properties at 214, 313 Center Street. Are they both South Center Street?
Oh, one's Tumwater.
Tumwater, the other one on Tumwater. And proceed with changing the comp plan from I industrial to R residential and change the zoning from institutional to R6 single-family residential.
I second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner McGriff,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Arnello,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Aye.
Chair Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Just moving down the list, the next one is a little complicated, the Cove. Why don't let's do this. Let's hit a couple of the easier ones. Yeah. Come back. How about that for a plan? Now, the two properties between the transfer station and 205, that's basically the wetland right alongside the 205 exit,
Correct.
not developable property.
No. So when we did the jug handle project, part of that, because it was in the floodplain, requires balanced cut and fill. So as we were adding fill to build the jug handle component, we had to cut somewhere. There was some stormwater going into this location in between 205, the exit at 213, and the Metro transfer station and the railroad tracks. So we did a project where we cut that basin for additional floodwater capacity and some stormwater design. So it actually has, we overcut, so essentially we have a cut surplus relative to how much fill we added. But yes, it's not developable.
Okay. And there's no, I mean, we can't do anything with it to get it on the tax rolls or, okay, we own it.
Could it possibly be stormwater retention for future development of the Stimson site?
Potentially, we would have to work through engineering. Because it's in the floodplain, we usually deal with water quality, not necessarily detention, because
Okay.
we're trying to move the water
Away.
closest, quickest out. So if it's a flood event, the stormwater detention is not going to detain anything
Well, but
anyway.
it could be a retention pond for stuff that hopefully no more floods.
Well, given that we do want to do something with the Stimson property and it's right there, it probably makes sense to just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we won't do anything with that. Next is the Stimson
I guess
property.
the one question,
Sorry.
I guess the one thing to think about with some of these properties is, should they transfer to the city? Right? If we're not going to develop them at any point, other than, like I said, the interesting part about this one is that potentially it has some cut capacity mathematically, right? We needed, and I'm just making up a number here, we needed, 30,000 cubic yards of cut, and we cut 60. So mathematically, we have 30,000 of capacity left that we could add fill in the basin somewhere. So, that does have value. But, just from a long-term maintenance, at some point, some of these should probably move to the city or the stormwater management group. I don't know that it has to happen immediately. I think it's just something to flag and maybe follow up on at a later date.
Okay. Stimson property, are we still,
Moving ahead.
pardon?
I thought we were moving ahead with that.
Well, the question, I think now, the question is still is it still the ODOT easement that's keeping us from putting out an RFP?
Correct. So let me, a couple things have been happening. So we've got the survey work for the property, and we put that on hold while we were trying to negotiate and have discussions with ODOT about the piece that's directly to the north, that's the old right-of-way. So what's interesting is that ODOT tends to own their properties as real property versus like us at the city, we own it as a right-of-way that we can vacate. So they actually have to go through essentially selling a piece of property process. It's not just as simple as vacating right-of-way like we do with an ordinance. So we've been working with them. When we did the jug handle project, that was old ODOT right-of-way. They transferred the maintenance liability to the county. Then we took over the maintenance liability from the county. So we had an agreement. Essentially, we are responsible for the property, for maintaining the property, for dealing with any issues on the property, but we don't own the property. So we've been talking with ODOT, and one of the processes we have to do, and I was going to bring this back to the commission, is we need to relinquish our maintenance rights to the property so that ODOT can turn around and begin the process to sell the property. So we would be giving up our design right on it and our maintenance right on it that was given to us as part of the jug handle process, so that then it's free and clear of any mixed ownership. So, it shows that we have a right in the property. We'd be giving that up so that they could begin the liquidation process. The timeline is embarrassingly long, like 2 years.
Oh,
So we're talking to them about how we can speed that up. We explained we have an appraisal, we've got the surveyor on board. Like, what can we do to help move this along? But it does depend on, I didn't feel comfortable, like I can't give away right away. I can't give away city land, so I do need to bring it to the commission to say, okay, is the commission okay with me relinquishing this maintenance right that we have on this property? So subsequently, because of that timeline, we've asked Centerline to complete all the survey work on the property, on the Stimson property as it exists today. Finish the easements. We had a couple of utilities that didn't quite line up with the easement location, get the easements done. They expect to have that done by July 31st, and then we would finish the appraisal immediately after that. And then I think we could begin that we could probably start the process now of preparing the documents and whatnot, but that's where we're at on the last two things. Well, there were kind of three things, the appraisal, the survey, and trying to figure out this ODOT property. So we'll be able to move forward with two of those and then just continue to work with ODOT to try to acquire that land.
What is our maintenance on those properties? What does it consist of?
I don't think we do much of anything on them.
Do we like cut the brush down or?
I'd have to check with, I think we do some enforcement out there. We put some signage up there to deal with some parking and some overnight parking that we've had. It's very minimal.
Well, I'm not sure ODOT is going to do what we do. If something happens out there, we say, ODOT, come and get whatever, and they were like, huh?
Mr. Morrow?
Thank you. So we've been discussing the potential redevelopment of this property for a while, and so I'm just curious why we're just now, at least as a commission, in recent weeks and months, being aware of this and what that looked like on your end for discovering this.
In terms of the timing with ODOT?
Well, in terms of just this, how this entire process is going to play out.
How I think it's going to play out moving forward, or?
No, so I'm confused why we didn't, as a commission, know about this hurdle earlier on, because we've been discussing the redevelopment of this property for a while. And so I'm wondering why we're just now bringing it up, rather than in past meetings when we were discussing Stimson exclusively, and what the redevelopment and RFP process would look like.
Because I don't think any of us thought it would be this complicated to buy a piece of property from the state. We originally thought, because we had the maintenance, we've been identified as the maintaining it, and the historical documents that we had, we made an assumption that we owned it. Once we had the surveyor on board and they started going through title and working backwards, it became clear that the liability and the maintenance on the property was transferred to the city, but the property never actually was. So ODOT maintained the underlying property. So then that began conversations with ODOT, trying to get them to, one, understand, identify, locate the property, and explain to us a process that we could get through to actually acquire the property.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I think in my mind, the way that I initially thought when I was reading through everything was that it would have been accessible from the beginning. And so knowing that we had to go through all that work and then discovering that makes sense. So I appreciate that.
So I think we thought, because it still shows up as right-of-way, like on our mapping, we initially made the assumption it was ours because we've always been taking care of the property. And we just thought we could go to the commission and vacate it like we vacate right-of-way or alleys. I mean, it's a pretty simple process when it's our right-of-way. Once the surveyor started digging in and we realized, we have the maintenance component, but we don't have the ownership component. That kind of changed what we needed to do, and then just trying to work with ODOT to,
Mr. Chair? Yeah, just to add on, my recollection, it wasn't that long ago when we actually voted here to assume some right-of-way in one area and give up right-of-way. And I presume that was at the point that you found out all these issues came forward. And it wasn't that long ago we did that.
Yeah, we had talked about, approving the vacation
Right.
along the frontage. So that's getting cleaned up as part of the survey on the Stimson property, because we need to dedicate a little bit of right-of-way. So we just want to do that now rather than negotiating or part of a land use action in the future. So essentially we'd be selling the property, when the city would already have the right-of-way it needs for Washington Street improvements. So yes, we were able to clean up the Stimson property, but then, you know, the property between Stimson and Metro started to become the issue.
Commissioner Arnell?
My mic.
Yep.
There was a tenant on that property, then they were considering moving out. Where are we with that?
They did. They moved out right around right at the New Year.
Okay.
So that property has been cleaned up, vacated, fenced, and signed.
So,
Mr.
How-
Mitchell, remember Ms. Marinello, that the tenant came to us and said he wasn't going to renew his lease because he was going to retire? Yeah, he's gone, yeah.
and it's just a very nice looking vacant, flat piece of property right now. So how soon can we, how far down this road of all this stuff do we have to get before we can get an RFP out there?
I think we would just, I think the last, the appraisal. I think getting the appraisal done, so at least you have some idea of what the land is worth.
We're talking about,
As we take in offers on the property. So, you know, I don't know, I mean, we could do an RFP before the appraisal, but we just wouldn't, I mean, you know, it's not like we're going to put a sale price probably on it, right? We're going to be asking for development proposals that are consistent with the vision that the Urban Renewal Commission discussed for a kind of a mixed-use hotel type of development on that property. So I would imagine it's going to be more like a request for proposal, request for information, rather than this property is for sale for X dollars. Right? So I feel like we could probably start moving the RFP process, but I'd love to time it with making sure we have the appraisal so we know what we're negotiating with, because as everyone's aware, some of the limitations of urban renewal, really the negotiation, what you have to offer here is the price of the property, right? That's going to be what you get to negotiate with to try to make a successful project there.
Have we started the RFP?
no, we have not started the RFP because of all these other issues that we have to go through. Because it is, as the city manager mentioned, it is important to know your negotiation stance. And so you don't want to walk into the dark.
No,
not
well,
knowing-
I'm not suggesting publicize it, but it's going to take a while to write it.
Oh, sure.
Approval from this group.
It's going to take a while.
I mean, last time when we were kind of redoing the urban renewal plan, we had a big discussion about properties, including the Stimson property. And one of the things that we brought forward was, I think you might have mentioned it, Commissioner Mitchell, was an RFI or an RFP that Troutdale had done. So we had walked through that and said we'd like to create something like this. So we would be basing it off of kind of that style. So I mean, if that's something we'd like, we can certainly get started on that. That's no problem.
Commissioner Smith, did you have something?
On the same property temporarily, does this board need to approve or have a conversation about concert in the park parking
My
for
understanding,
summer?
my understanding
I
was-
assume we're going to use that space for parking. Is that something we have to talk about here, or is that
No,
just the
I've
city?
been working with the city attorney and the planning department on how do we allow that from a permitting
Okay.
standpoint. My understanding was there was support to do that, so we've been
I
working
think
to
so.
make that happen.
Yeah.
I don't think I need anything else.
Okay.
If we identify it, we'll bring it back, and if we do, it probably has to go to the city commission if it's a land use related thing, but we don't think we're going to necessarily need to do that.
Are they charging for parking, and is that half of it come to Urban Renewal Agency?
I don't think we proposed charging at this point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure we are charging.
Well,
Huh? I thought we were going to be, well, yeah.
we have time to discuss.
We can, yeah, I don't think
Not
we're
much.
No, that's true. It
End
is
of May.
It is May. Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you. So it sounds like we can go through the appraisal and RFP or whatever RF insert any letter concurrently with the ODOT process.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think
Okay.
if we get, but I do think we should continue to engage and try to get that. I just think it cleans
Absolutely.
that corner up. You know, the one downside is, you know, is someone going to come and bid? I just don't know. Like, it's disheartening that the process from a jurisdiction to another jurisdiction is this difficult. We've worked with like county foreclosures when they happen. Typically the city gets first right of refusal if it's in their jurisdiction. So hopefully we can work with ODOT to speed this up and make this a little bit easier, since it is it's a jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
I think, once again, there would be head nods all along the table for the idea of moving forward as quickly as possible
Yes.
with an RFP on that, okay? All right, Amtrak station property, we've got a good tenant. Life is good on that one, right?
Yeah, I think this is the same kind of discussion as, you know, whether it's going to be the flood mitigation area that we talked about earlier, the two properties behind Metro or City Hall. Like, should these, now that they're essentially developed, should those transfer out of the district as ownership, right? And have it become a city facility in the long run? I don't know what, the goal was to get the Amtrak station there, right? That project's kind of done. I'm not aware of any additional taking the parking lot and building something. Like, there's nothing planned, right? So to me, it's kind of checkbox, and should the Urban Renewal Agency continue to own a property or a project once it's done, or should it transfer to the city that then takes over, insurance liability, maintenance, it gets on our, deferred maintenance plan, all the work that has to go into that should probably be coming from the city, not the Urban Renewal Agency.
Commissioner Smith?
The restaurant was temporary. I mean, the plan for the train station was to make it a train station, and renting it out was temporary. So that project isn't done.
Okay.
Now, it may have changed, but the idea of a restaurant being there was until at some point we renovate it or have it a full station or station it up to some degree, or shared space. I don't know, but I don't think that was the final opinion, although this commission could change that.
Okay, but that one is not pressing at this time. Vacant parcel across from the Stimson property. Oh, sorry. Yes.
On the Amtrak station, do we have maintenance responsibility for the small structure at the platform? That's the platform.
Yes.
Okay, because it needs some work. And so does the Urban Renewal Agency own that? We own that, right?
Correct.
So could we put forth fixing some of the deferred maintenance issues that are going on there? I know the last time I took the train, which was not super recent, but I was standing there and I was looking like, oh, that needs fixing, that needs fixing, that needs fixing. There was some dry rot, a few little things like that.
It's up to this commission if they'd like to spend funds on that.
I mean, it's an amenity. I think we should have it in better shape.
I think we should see what needs
Well,
to be
everybody
done.
go out there and take a look at
And
it.
the costs that will
Yeah.
go along with it.
Yeah, maybe we could get some idea of the things, and if you're out that way, stop and look at it, because
Because that is, that's our front door for people to come in on the
and
train.
people get off and it's like, ew, okay.
May I ask the commission if we've had or ever had a building envelope inspection on that particular site?
I'm sorry,
A
what?
building envelope inspection?
Of the building itself?
Roof, siding, exterior windows?
I'd have to go back and look. I know we did a lot of work on it.
Yeah, sure we did.
When we moved it in, and then I know we've replaced both air conditioners. I know we've done work. There was a recent addition on the roof on the front side. I'm fairly confident that.
If we're planning to potentially reposition that property from the current Lisi restaurant to a full station, it might be good for us to do an assessment of the condition of the building, so we know useful end of life, and we can determine what might be needed to make that flip if desired.
Well, the question is, did that was that station part of our facilities assessment that we just did?
I'm sure I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, so I mean, we should have that information about its condition and all that as part of our facility study. So we could take a look at that and bring that back and make an assessment. Like I said, everybody just should go by it for the next meeting, and that way you can see kind of what's going on with it.
Okay, moving on. Vacant parcel across from Stinson property. Is that the, sorry, Commissioner Smith, did you?
I got,
Okay.
go ahead.
Is that the one that has the lawnmower
No.
No,
shop? Okay, so where is it from
That
there?
belongs to Stein Oil.
Next lot.
Next lot toward EOT or the
Towards
other way?
213.
No, towards 232.
towards the other side.
It's vacant. It
It's
used to be
basic-
the old chamber
Yeah.
office back
Office,
in the
yeah.
day.
Okay,
Trails End
gotcha.
Diner.
Oh,
Any
jeez.
any idea how large that property is? I guess
takes
what I'm
It's
asking-
not very big.
It's not very big.
It takes a corner out of that lawnmower property.
Oh, okay.
Which is owned
And-
by Stein Oil.
Right, which is currently empty. I would say, I would hate us to, I would not want to lose that corner. And in addition to not wanting to lose that corner, I think we need to consider every possibility of purchasing that other property.
It's a little over a half an acre.
If it's possible.
You mean the Stein site?
Yeah. And the reason for that is, one, if it stays in urban renewal or later is transited to the city, we have an extension of the end of the Oregon Trail parking lot. If the end of the Oregon Trail site is going to continue to be an amphitheater / concert venue, then we need to consider parking issues that will go away if we sell the Stimson property. But even if not, it would allow us to rethink the gateway in the future, from the train station to the dump site, to the future urban renewal area up on the dump site. We only have that little square. And if we had the piece in between EOTIC and that little old Chamber of Commerce site, we would have an entryway to that upper site that I think is crucial in redevelopment of that upper site and connecting it to the train station and the visitor center, et cetera. I think the only thing that has really faulted some of these other plans at the dump site is that connection, right? I mean, it's hard to create a synergy between the train station, the visitor center, and a development that doesn't connect to it at all. We want people to come off the freeway, come into Oregon City, park, do the visitor center, go from the train station to the hotels, go down Main Street on shuttles into downtown and out to the falls. I mean, these connection pieces are crucial, and I think we should try our best to make sure we look at that piece.
That makes sense. That's a good
Yeah.
strategic possible future use. So we'll just leave that one alone.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could make some inquiries with the property owners, see if they are,
On the other property.
yes, on the Stein Oil site.
Okay. 10th and Main.
Sell it.
Yes. Is it-
Okay. Sell it. I agree.
Is it on the market?
Sell it.
Is it on the market?
It's not,
Taken off.
right?
Right.
We're ready to put up signs, and here we go, right? Again, are there head nods on that? Okay.
Just, so no requirements for what's on the corner.
Well, it can't be a warehouse or a mattress store.
Oddly
Well, that is, I mean,
I'm just saying,
the question
before
is,
it was a desire for multifamily with
Yeah.
residential because of the
Retail
quiet
on the
zone.
ground
So
floor and-
just trying to clear, because if we put it up for sale and somebody comes in with a one-story corner building, are we just,
No, I think it needs to be at least 2 to 3, and I see how it's tied in with the quiet zone. I mean, it is. Even if you have a commercial building there, it's still going to be quite noisy.
so we probably don't have the time tonight, but are we leaning toward not just putting up a for sale sign, but instead having a discussion and putting parameters on it? on what we want and the time limit to perform and those kind of things. Is that what we're doing?
What about what we already said we wanted on it? Has that changed?
I don't know. That'd certainly be a starting point.
I think further discussion might be needed.
Pardon?
Further discussion.
Okay, all right. 4 tax lots under City Hall.
Sell it.
Yeah. Yes. And you know, that city's got big bucks. We can get a lot of money for it.
No, sorry, I'm kidding. No, I don't want to sell it. It's already developed.
You don't want to sell the land under City Hall to the city?
Do we own it?
Urban Renewal owns,
Yeah.
Urban Renewal owns the building and.
the building and, I thought it was just the land under.
Oh, no.
I think we should just leave it alone. We can give it to the city. We can sell it to the city for $1.
It was an easier decision when I thought it was just the land, but
So I think, this gets back to the whole discussion we were having earlier, right? At what point, does it make sense just from, the cities maintaining it, the cities paying for the improvements, the cities, it would be great to get it under city control for, looping it into like our building, our insurance for all our buildings, our liability insurance, right? I mean, essentially, other than the history and around this purchase, I've never heard an idea of it becoming something else that would necessitate Urban Renewal owning it for the long term. Now that could change, right? But
I don't see why
I
we
just-
would keep it.
I'd like to move that we sell it, that the Urban Renewal Commission sell this property and the building to the city for $1 and love and affection. I see Bill smirking in the audience. That's a real term.
Yeah, I'll second the motion, I'll leave the love and whatever it was
The
out.
love and affection.
Yeah, I'll be glad out, but I'll second the sale for $1.
We transfer is what I said. I didn't say sell, I said we transfer it.
Transfer for $1?
Yeah.
Have you had or should you have a discussion with the city attorney before we take action on that motion?
I'd appreciate it. I wasn't expecting that motion tonight, so I'd love to walk through this a little bit.
Trying to move on stuff.
Wait, are you willing to withdraw your motion pending?
I think I could amend the motion, say pending discussion with the city attorney, but I want to move it. Let's not mess
Okay.
around.
All right.
So I get to decide?
No.
You get to have a positive
Discussion with the
I
city.
need to figure out a way to make it happen. Okay.
Yes.
I do think that the Urban Renewal Commission has a significant amount of latitude in how they move development projects and what they invest or what they don't invest or how much they put in or what they sell something for, right? So I just wanted to walk through it though with the attorney, make sure we're in the good place.
Don't forget that we want a brand new crisp $1.
See what I
Okay,
can
we
find.
have a motion and a second. Can we go ahead with the vote, please?
Commissioner Neely.
Aye.
Commissioner Mall.
Aye.
Commissioner McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
No.
Commissioner Arnello.
No.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Chair Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay.
See, we did something.
punted the Cove. Oops, sorry. We punted the Cove discussion. We're kind of in a similar spot with that and Stimson where we want to try to move forward? Publicize it again? What? We're still in the water quality thing.
Yeah, we got the water quality work going on. I guess, I do wonder if maybe if we focused on, right, because right now we've got Stimson, 10th and Main, now we'd like to move forward with selling the homes, doing the comp plan amendment, looking at Amtrak for additional work. The Cove is a beast.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we could tick some of these off before we take on another project.
Understood. Okay, understand.
I've got a question there, though.
Okay.
Those 8 parcels, in fact, are adjacent to each other.
So
Across the street from each other.
there's, right at the bottom of Firestone Alley, along Main Street Extension, there's one small lot. Right across from that is that kind of peninsula that goes out parallel to 99E.
Right.
To where the old water intake facility is. So that's
Yeah.
2 of the parcels. And then the remainder were subdivided on the far side of the cove where the apartments and office were going to be built all those years ago. So
Yes.
yes, those are contiguous there. As part of that subdivision plat, there was a walkway dedicated, and then the natural resource overlay district buffer area
Right.
was also dedicated. So it's actually a couple more, technically, like the water body and the water resource tract are owned by the district still, but they're not developable. They were identified as, through the subdivision process, to be, you know, the water resource boundary
I
area.
think I know what you mean, but what district? I think I know what it is.
I'm sorry,
What district owns it?
the Urban Renewal Agency owns all that.
Oh,
But, you know, I was saying it's the natural resource overlay district boundary. We have to create that tract because
Yes,
we gotta
okay.
be 50 feet away. So that was all done under that subdivision years and years ago.
Yeah.
I think we should review just briefly review, because we've got a couple people that aren't familiar with the original proposal, and see if that is something that we still want to do, because it had an amphitheater, there was some park development, but again, that's going to be subject to the outcome of the water quality report, but I don't think it would hurt for us to just get get a review of what was the proposal and see if that is still something we want to look at.
Which
So-
proposal?
Huh?
Exactly.
Which one?
I mean, there's been multiple on that
What I
one.
just wanted to
Original-
have an
I'm
amphitheater.
talking about the very first one where it was the development, there was the park, there was all
Well,
of
the very first one was anchored by 2 office buildings in the middle.
Okay, not that one.
That was the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one.
I think that's the one you remember, Commissioner. I think you were on
One
that
of the ones I remember.
One of the
many.
ones.
I came into it with the amphitheater.
I think maybe the most recent one.
The last one? Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the
most
one
recent
that,
one did not have an amphitheater, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, it was a park. It was a big park.
Yeah.
Nor
Trinidad
did it
Barrel
have
came
a
in and said, "No, I
marina."
don't want to do the park.
nor did
A
it have
boat
what?
dock, or did it have a boat dock or anything like that that was first proposed?
How many of them are there?
Oh, gosh.
Maybe we need the whole sad story.
It wouldn't hurt to look at them all.
I don't remember.
Perhaps we might all discuss some hopes and dreams and see if there's a proposal out there that exists that matches some of those qualifications.
I
agree.
think the
Yeah.
problem is that it's kind of, you probably had one that kind of morphed.
Right, I don't want to share it, but anyway, my suggestion, it was a big project we were talking about. My suggestion is we bring that to a subsequent commission meeting and give the history there.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, at a future meeting.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And 12th and Main is city-owned, correct?
Correct. So when we looked at 12th and Main, 12th and Main was part of the Main Street parking lot across the street as well. So we had received a significant federal grant for purchase and construction of improving parking downtown. So that project that purchased the 12th and Main property and did the parking lot improvements was a combination of funds. It was city funding, urban renewal funding, and federal grant funding. So, we have the minutes of, it just was determined that, it wasn't like one was giving a ton more than the other, and it was just determined that the city would own it. Even though there were at least 3 funding sources going into the purchase and redevelopment. But just because it's owned by the city doesn't mean the Urban Renewal Agency can't be a partner in redeveloping the property.
Right. But the decision whether or not to put it back on the market would be city commission.
Correct, under current ownership, yes.
Okay.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
I believe that the property on Malala Division is 7th Island, that's city property.
Correct, that's
And that's
purchased.
for transportation improvements?
Correct, that was
around-
purchased with
Got it.
transportation
Okay.
funding for
Got it.
intersection
Thank you.
improvements.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Morrow.
I was just the clarifying question because you had said that the city commission would have the decision to put that on the market, but to clarify, it is on the market, correct?
12th and Main?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Oh, I thought that it had the billboard, the land of
came down.
opportunity.
I think we,
Came down.
I'd have
Oh,
to.
it came
That's
down,
now,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, more?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yes?
I really think that we should strongly urge the city commission to ask the Urban Renewal Agency to deal with the property. And I don't believe, my feeling is that the property can be redeveloped without having to do anything with the utilities that are in there. I think it can be redeveloped. Since part of it is in the floodplain, you're going to want to elevate whatever it is anyway, put parking underneath, and then you can have your building. I don't think we should bear that expense. I don't think it's a problem having it, having those two lines in there. I think it can be redeveloped. So that would be my request, to say, let's ask the city commission to enable the Urban Renewal Agency to deal with it. That's what they do best.
Okay, the next step would be up to the city commission.
Right. We'll ask them later.
Anything else on property topics?
Nope.
Any comments from the commissioners? Communications?
I'm just going to give a quick update on the quiet zone. So the last update that we had, so we're working with multiple agencies on the quiet zone. And the quiet zone is going to be at the intersection at 10th and the intersection at 11th where they cross the railroad tracks. That includes working with ODOT, Federal Rail System, the railroad. So we had 30% drawings. They're now trying to get those to 60% drawings, which will get us a better cost estimate. I think one of the things that we're working through with all the agencies is because of the topography of the area and the existing road alignment, especially coming up or down Singer Hill, is incorporating ADA compliant access and crossings in those locations. So that's a little bit of something they've been really trying to work through is, how can we put in ADA compliant crossing that meets the needs, realizing, how steep Singer is or 10th is, but we still do need to work with them to come up with something that all agencies can agree to.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, what time do you want to start the city commission meeting?
Probably by 5 after.
Okay, all right, we'll start the city commission meeting at 5 after. Seeing nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.